He mentioned ivermectin being horse-based and pushed that whole narrative for a long time. He gave a platform to one of the biggest spreaders of misinformation during the COVID times, Dr. Fauci.
The Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Kimmel debacle continues, and quite honestly, I think it's time we just run through what Rodgers said and fact check as needed.
But we said there's an excitement to expose corruption. And what I joked about the other day about popping a bottle, there's excitement about when the corruption anywhere gets exposed and people who are accused of these heinous crimes get exposed. That will be nice, that we can get this all out in the open. That's not there. So I made this comment on the show whenever that was last year, right, I believe. And then unprompted, he comes out and says that I'm an overly concussed wacko. In my opinion, it seemed like because I believe that there was a list and that there were names on that.
Nope, that's wrong. Here's what Rodgers said.
There's a lot of old papers and files and different things about interactions that Navy pilots have had, especially Navy pilots, I believe, with unidentified flying objects. So this is not surprising. Obviously, there was some sort of Chinese spy balloon that was up in the air,
lasers,
allegedly, and there's been a few other objects that have been shot down. I believe that this has been going on for a long time. Interesting timing on everything. There's a lot of other things going on in the world.
What?
Like what?
Well, you're saying you're saying, oh, looky here. Is that what you just said? Bang. That's what you said?
Could be some of that, yeah. Did you hear about the Epstein client list about to be released, too? There's some files that have some names on it that might be getting released pretty soon.
Oh.
Are you on there? Look out, AJ.
Maxwell was the only, person ever convicted of trafficking, and nobody who was involved in the trafficking ever went to jail. So nothing to see here.
This is where Aaron loses. He claims it was all because of the list. That's not it. The reason Kimmel called him a tinfoil hatter is because Rodgers claimed the UFO talk came out to distract from the client list, when in reality, if you've been following the case, we've known for years the client list and flight logs were a thing. Then he addressed his comments about Kimmel that started all this.
This has something to do with the Epstein list that came out?
Feels like.
That's supposed to be coming out soon.
Look, this guy's been waiting in his wine cellar. Yeah. I've been waiting in my wine cellar for this thing.
A lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't.
All right.
On Tuesday's show, Rodgers went off.
I totally understand how serious an allegation of pedophilia would be. So for him to be upset about that, I get it. Did you watch the quote? Because that's exactly what I said. Verbatim what I said on the show. Okay? I'm not stupid enough, even though you think I'm an idiot, and you made a lot of comments about my intelligence, but I'm not stupid enough to accuse you of that with absolutely zero evidence, concrete evidence. That's ridiculous.
So now he's pivoting to, I would never say something without concrete evidence, even though there have been images, doctored, Photoshop, to show Jimmy Kimmel on those flight logs. Where's the evidence, Aaron? Show us the evidence, why don't you?
Where is your clinical evidence? Who has produced it? Will you share it with the committee?
Well, first of all, I am the evidence. I think I'm more of an expert.
Getting this vibe from Rodgers on his findings. Let's not play dumb here, all right? Rodgers is in the #1 market in the country, a star quarterback, former MVP, one of the best in his era, who has the loudest microphone on the #1 sports network, plus a YouTube channel that has over 2.42 million subscribers. And he implied Jimmy Kimmel is a PEDO. He implied that. He did. Why? Because he holds a grudge. Don't let Rodgers paint a different picture here. Shortly after McAfee publicly attacked ESPN executive Norby Williamson, Rodgers went after senior VP of production Mike Foss.
But I don't understand a Mike Foss comment because he didn't help out either. And I'm going to quote Mike Foss. He said, Aaron made a dumb and factually incorrect joke about Jimmy Kimmel. It should never have happened. We all realized that in the moment. Mike, you're not helping. You're not helping because I just read earlier exactly what I said. So, and this is the game plan of the media, and this is what they do. They try and cancel.
Credit to Tyler Dragonfly Jones per year, one of the best tweeters in the game, co-host of the Jenkins and Jones podcast, who wrote, "Hi, I'm Aaron Rodgers, and welcome back to They're Trying to Cancel Me and Silence Me, my weekly segment every Tuesday on the leading sports network in America under the Disney ABC umbrella." When one person chimed in on Rodgers being censored, Jones would reply, "Getting told you made a baseless accusation about someone and need to walk that stuff back is not censorship. Censorship happens when you're being silenced for telling the truth. People telling you to shut up because you said some weird stuff that is not rooted in facts is not censorship."
You know, and it's not just me. It's nowhere near just me. I mean, if you look at all the different people who've been censored from the internet especially during COVID, the canceling that went on, the censorship, using the government to try and censor people that happened. And if that doesn't work, then they go to name calling. I'm not a MAGA. I've never had any affiliation with anybody associated with that movement, right?
No, wrong. Flat out wrong. Recall when Rodgers lambasted Travis Kelce, calling him Mr. Pfizer for daring to do spots for the COVID vax and flu shot. Not that Rodgers, by the way, didn't take the same money from the pharmaceutical industry, because as I remember, the New York Jets and their owner is Woody Johnson, who is the heir to Johnson & Johnson, which also produces the COVID vaccine. Interesting. He did endorse a certain candidate, though.
Mr. Pfizer said he didn't think he would be in a vax war with me.
Oh, boy.
Didn't think he'd be in a vax war with me. This ain't a war, homie. This is just conversation. But if you want to have some sort of duel, debate, have me on the podcast. Come on the show. Let's have a conversation.
Okay.
Pass it out.
Let's do it like in John Wick 4, right? So we both have a second.
Nice.
Right? So somebody to help us out. I'm going to take my man, RFK Jr.
My man RFK, his words. Remember this?
I'm not a MAGA. I've never had any affiliation with anybody associated with that movement, right?
Interesting.
I'm a great admirer of Robert Kennedy. He's a friend of mine.
Wow. I am a fan of Bobby Kennedy, so I want people to know that. I actually look at him, and I think he's one of those, like, I actually think I have a lot in common with him.
I believe that his candidacy may serve the purpose of softening Joe Biden or who.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign is getting traction for one reason. He's speaking truth to power.
This is the epitome of MAGA giving ringing endorsements to your guy, Aaron. Roger Stone, who allegedly threatened to kill Representative Eric Swalwell, cited RFK's anti-Semitism and withdrawal of support to Ukraine as reasons to support him. Quote, "On these geopolitical ideas, he makes a lot of sense. In fact, he sounds a lot like Donald Trump." Interesting. But of course, Aaron, no affiliation whatsoever. Charlie Kirk, who tweeted that he supplied buses to the January 6th insurrection and launched his entire political career off the back of Donald Trump, also gave an endorsement to RFK. And by the way, the former president, not one to attack, right? Wrong. He'll go after anybody and go on the offensive at any point in time. He gave the stamp of approval, calling RFK a very smart person. So who is this guy exactly? Aside from being a total anti-vaxxer who does not believe in modern medicine, it's the same dude who blames school shootings on antidepressants. Interesting. Instead of, guns. But he later walked back his criticisms of the NRA because he wants their money now. He said Wi-Fi causes cancer. That's dumb. He went with the 5G towers myth. Interesting. You know who else did? Aaron Rodgers. He linked vaccines to autism and chemicals in water turning people trans. This is Alex Jones crazy. And Rodgers is saying, that's my guy. The basis for Rodgers' anti-Fauci positions comes from none other than his favorite candidate.
I enjoy reading. I read studies about this. I've read books. I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book about Fauci is incredible.
So revealing.
And that's my last point. Then I just want to fucking move on. But it's like, people are always like, why are you still talking about COVID? Like, why don't you just move on? It's ridiculous. I'm like, well, let's see what happened. They locked everybody up forever.
Dang, forever? No way. Obviously, wasn't forever. But what we did see were red states going, we don't care. We're so pro-life, we'll let you die from COVID. And that's exactly what happened. Whereas the statistics would show in blue states, there was less death per capita. For Rodgers to say that we'd lock down forever is pure fear-mongering. But that's what he ascribes to, clearly.
Right, they locked everybody up. Hundreds of thousands of businesses closed and never opened again.
Let's pause here. He is, I mean this sincerely, he's so close to getting it. Let me explain. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, Oklahoma Republican, had over $700,000 in loans forgiven. This is a man who railed against student loan forgiveness. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene had over $182,000 forgiven. Congressman Vernon Buchanan of Florida, over $2.3 million in PPP loans forgiven. The point being is this. Join me, Aaron. Join me. Join me in demanding the government do what its purpose is and why these people won these seats, to serve us. Instead of giving trillions to the military, here's a thought, put it back in the pockets of small business owners, the up-and-comers in graduate school, the moms who need daycare, not for giving loans to multi-millionaire politicians who don't need them forgiven. Kind of an easy ask, no?
The wealth gap got even bigger from the haves and have-nots.
Call out Musk. Do it. Call out the 1%ers. Call out the richest of richest. But you won't, of course. You won't. I dare you. Also, explain how the wealth gap widened. Do it. Because it wasn't lost wages from the workers. It was stolen wages. It was those who profited off those stolen wages, of course. The silver lining, however, is McAfee's audience appear to be just totally tired of it. From Ben Koo, McAfee loyalists are writing in droves their disapproval of the Rodgers Tuesdays segment because they just don't want to hear it anymore. They don't care for the Jets quarterback to give a stamp of approval to men who align with folks who claim the frogs are turning gay, or contaminated water make people trans, or his affinity for the Weinsteins and Berensons of the world. The question remains, when will ESPN